People have been telling me that gold is about to run. Well, let's find out. My name's Jay Martin. This is the Jay Martin Show. My guest today is Mark Yaxley. He is a director at Strategic Wealth Preservation, a gold and silver dealer. So when I see Twitter sentiment pick up or gold bugs start telling me that the time is now to invest in gold, the first thing I do is fact check and find out, is there an increase in money moving into gold ETFs, into physical bullion? Who is buying? Where are they buying from? Is it new buyers? Is it old buyers? All this stuff matters. Follow the money. It's usually the source of truth. And that's what we do today. A quick hit with Mark Yaxley on gold inflows and what he's seeing. Three quick things before we jump into this interview. Number one, the ad revenue from this channel is donated to an organization called Zero Ceiling, super close to my heart. Zero Ceiling's mission is to end youth homelessness, and they do a great job. Number two, I author a weekly newsletter. I love writing it. You can subscribe with the pinned comment right beneath this video. It's free, and I publish every Friday. And number three, if you prefer to listen to my content as opposed to watch it, check me out anywhere you listen to your podcast. Just search for The Jay Martin Show. Here is Mark Yaxley. Enjoy.
This is Jay Martin.
All right, what's up, guys? Jay Martin here. I'm sitting down with Mark Yaxley, the managing director at Strategic Wealth Preservation. Mark, it's good to see you again.
Jay, always a pleasure.
So catch me up. Actually, for anybody who's not familiar with you, let's start there real quick. Mark, who are you and how do you spend your time?
Jay, I think the easiest way to sum that up is I'm a gold dealer by trade. I manage Strategic Wealth Preservation, SWP, which is a Cayman-based gold dealer and storage facility. We offer trading and storage to our clients all over the world at this point. So most of my days are spent looking after the gold and silver market and trying to facilitate transactions for our clients.
So that's why I wanted to talk to you, because I chat to a lot of economists and analysts, and everyone's got a prediction and a forecast for the future and what assets might move and where we might see shifting. The one rule that never seems to disappoint, though, is just to follow the money, right? Where money goes, you see change often. And so I'm curious, Mark, a good place to start might be, talk to me about inflows right now. Are you seeing, you're a gold dealer, so talk to me about what you're seeing in the sense of money moving into or out of precious metals.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fair to say that there's a solid inflow of money into the precious metal space right now, along with other alternative asset classes. You can see that through the ETF inflow reports. So they've reported some net inflows for the past few months. It's kind of become a trend. Definitely seeing the same thing on the physical side. And to give you an idea of where that is comparatively, we're just about at the peak COVID numbers right now in terms of sales for physical metals, at least at SWP. And I'm hearing the same from other colleagues within the industry. So if peak COVID was really like decade long records for the inflow or purchase of physical precious metals, and how that compared to pre-COVID is probably about 3-1 pre-COVID. So it's really solid at this point. And that's been reflected in the spot price, obviously.
So just to make sure I understood that correctly, you called it peak COVID numbers. We're up 3-1 from pre-COVID numbers. That's to say that investment into physical gold was up 300%. Did I understand that correctly?
You got it. Yeah, very much so. Pre-COVID, the gold market was pretty much stuck in a little bit of a jam. It wasn't really moving upwards after it had reached some record highs. Over $1,900, it had fallen back to like, $1,750, $1,800. It was kind of stuck in a rut. And then when you had the COVID explosion or really the world adapting to COVID in early 2020 and mid 2020, that's when we saw some new record highs for gold and record demand, especially for gold. And that's where we're seeing the likeliness again.
Okay, so it makes complete sense to me why you would see that massive jump during peak COVID, right? Fear and uncertainty, the sky's falling, fleet of hard assets and safe haven assets. I did that, but what do you attribute, this rush today to? What do you point to? Do you have any thoughts?
I think it's a little bit more of the traditional positioning for gold right now. It's really the safe haven buying that we're seeing, and that's the result of at least a portion of the market recognizing that there's a substantial amount of risk if you're long equities right now. I do believe that's kind of the sentiment that we're hearing from our clients. You've got obviously the bond tapering in effect from the Fed, or at least the early stages of bond tapering in effect, and the interest rate hikes in a very inflationary environment, which we spoke about last time. I think last time we spoke, it was just the beginning, the early stages of the inflationary environment that we're now deeply entrenched in. So that uncertainty, the money coming out of the market in terms of stimulus, in the form of bond purchasing, and also interest rate hikes, have got a lot of people that are long equities a little bit spooked. The equity markets have struggled. I think will continue to struggle to reach new highs in this environment. And so savvy investors are starting to reposition, starting to hedge their bets, and starting to move to assets like gold.
Yeah, I mean, everybody I have on my show right now, I guess over the last 12 months, to be honest with you, if I think about those who I would categorize as the smart money, have been consistently, there's always variations, right? If I interview 30 investors, I hear 60 different ideas, but then there's like a handful where there's consensus, right? One or two things that everyone's doing, right? Maybe putting money in food tech or in blockchain opportunities or in precious metals. But typically there's also a couple threads that are just consistent through the whole group. And the trend that I've seen emerge, notably in the last 12 months, has been a de-risking of portfolios, right? And so I thought it'd be good time to have you on, because what that often means, right, is people start calling you probably. Now, do you pay attention to like central bank gold buying trends as well, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a member of the World Gold Council. I've subscribed to their material, so I am kept in the loop. It's not something I monitor daily, but the consistent trend from central banks seems to be adding to their positions. Not Canada, unfortunately. That's the old joke. We remain without any physical holdings at this point. But there seems to be a consistent demand from central banks, which is one of the main drivers for the gold price, obviously. So yes, I do take a look.
Okay, a couple questions off of that. Let's touch on Canada, because you and I are both based in Canada. Talk to me about the geographical consumer base, though, at Strategic Wealth Preservation. Like, are you seeing individual Canadians pick up and accumulate more physical gold?
Demand out of Canada, is always pretty steady. I think it falls in line with most westernized, first world developed nations. There's nothing that really stands out in terms of what I'm seeing from Canadians right now versus Americans or some European clients. But they do make up, a substantial segment of our client base. What I am seeing that's probably more interesting than their recent demand for gold is there are a number of Canadians trying to relocate to the Cayman Islands. One of my business partners manages a firm, Navigate Cayman, which helps people relocate to the Cayman Islands. And that is one trend that I'm aware of right now, is that people are actually, and I think, we were chatting about this earlier, are looking to move. They're not comfortable with policy. They're not comfortable with the spending. Whatever the reason might be, there's people on the move. They're relocating. So that's probably a more interesting trend right now that I'm noticing from Canadians.
Interesting. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because we were just talking about that. I am debating relocating my family. I got 3 kids. It's a pretty consequential move, to be honest with you. But consistently, whenever I'm feeling a certain way, whether it's like I'm super excited about an idea, kind of scared of something, rarely am I having a unique thought, right? Typically, I am part of a wave or a trend. There's a collective of people that received the same inputs that I did, came to the same conclusion, and then we're moving the same direction, knowingly or not, right? You may feel like you're doing it alone, but rarely, in my experience, am I. And my wife and I, because my family's dual, she's American, I'm Canadian, my kids are all dual. We've explored in the last 6 months, Arizona, Texas, Montana, Idaho, and then we have family in Oregon and California. I had some business in Louisiana. So we've been all over the US. What I really appreciate about that, and as I mentioned, is the sovereignty of the states, right? It's like you can, as you skip across the state border, you experience a whole new style of risk management, which is lovely, because you can kind of choose your own adventure, right? If you're feeling very you want more protection, you want more regulation, you can find that ecosystem, you can find that environment. If you want more freedom and choice, you can find that too, right? We haven't pulled the trigger on anywhere yet, because I feel like what is it, 2022? I still think the next 8 years are going to be as predictable as the last two. And it's too early to call, where is the safe haven location? But you have any thoughts on that? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing the same things like I was saying to you pre-show from some of my clients and some of my friends who are looking into relocating to Texas or Florida because of the freedoms that they're perceiving. But like you said, I don't know if there's any one place that checks all the boxes. I am extremely familiar with Cayman, having lived there, still work there, still manage a business there. Cayman, like any other place, is evolving and adapting to this new world that we're living in. But I can tell you that they are still a standout in my mind in terms of that sovereign feeling that you might be looking for, especially people that are mid to high net worth individuals who can afford to live in a place like Cayman. It can really offer you a fantastic lifestyle. And there are some interesting immigration options available to those types of people as well. So that's definitely a place that I would, recommend that people check out if they are looking to check out of Canada.
Okay. Now, can you talk to me a little bit about the demographic when you're talking about the, increased demand for gold? You're seeing it now matching COVID numbers. So up 300% over the previous decade average. What can you tell me about the demographic that's buying gold right now? And I guess, in one sense, my question is, are these experienced gold investors that were buying gold last decade, just less of it? Are you seeing new money on new individuals enter the space? What can you tell me about that trend, if anything?
Yeah, there's always some novice investors entering the space. Thank God, people that are willing to invest the time and to understand precious metals. Not that it's overly complicated, that from having invested in yourself. It's a pretty straightforward ordeal. But in this day and age, there's a lot of options out there with NFTs, crypto. There's so many things that a novice or younger investor could invest in, especially if they're looking for quick returns or to build their wealth. Gold, that does pose a challenge to gold, but we're still seeing a steady inflow of novice investors. What we did notice, actually, we just completed a round of looking at our client demographics recently, is our average age actually ticked up slightly. So it would indicate that it is more sophisticated, slightly older, more knowledgeable people that are hedging on gold. And that kind of is in line with what we were talking about earlier, what the role that gold is really playing right now. It is not a wealth building asset class to own right now. I think it's really a wealth preservation asset class. So it's really beautiful because it's the reliability and predictability of gold that's doing exactly kind of what it was intended to do, which is add stability and in kind of turbulent market conditions or uncertain market conditions. And I think older investors grasp that point a little bit better than younger investors who are like, I'm looking for a 10x, 50x return. That's not gold. Gold is not going to do that for you, but it is going to protect wealth that you've already accumulated. So I think that is in line with what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, and that makes sense just from a life cycle standpoint. Like, you're looking to make money or protect the money that you have, right? And you'll make a decision of that based on how much life you have left and what your goals are, right? And you're trying to buy a home or trying to, whatever it is, right? That's a big misunderstanding. I feel, and I've been guilty of this. I've hosted on my channel gold versus Bitcoin debates. Not recently, maybe 18 months ago, still too recent, because I feel like the question is misplaced, and I own gold and I dollar cost average into gold throughout the year, and I have for a long time. The purpose of gold, if the purpose of gold is to be safe, then the activity of gold will be boring. Like that's what safe is, right? Like why are we comparing this new asset class that's in growth mode to, a 1,000-year tried and tested safe haven asset class? I mean, the purpose is to be boring. It's to not do much. Right. And I hope to never have to liquidate my gold. I hope to give it to my kids, and hopefully they're my grandkids. Like that's the legacy wealth, right? It's like, I find comparing gold to Bitcoin is like comparing real estate to Facebook stock. Like why would you do that? Right. It's completely different. And, I also am a believer in Bitcoin though. And if it becomes a safe haven asset that many believe it could, the end result is that it becomes boring. I mean, that's the goal, right? Like, if it eventually becomes what the Bitcoin maximalists claim it will be, it'll become boring. It'll become, will reduce the volatility, widespread adoption, and it'll be a safe place, which is not exciting, but it's important, right?
Excellent point. Yeah, you totally understand the functionality of gold. And I have the same approach when I try to explain to people Bitcoin versus gold. And I think that's been proven recently. There's been a ton of volatility in Bitcoin. I'm still a holder and believer myself. And that's kind of my option on the future investment we talked about last time. But I'm in the same boat as you, RJ.
Love it. Okay, look, Mark, great having you back on. Thanks for catching up, and love to do it again soon.
Well, thanks for having me, Jay, and good luck to all those investors out there.
Okay, guys, 3 last things. First, if you enjoy my interviews and would like a bit more, you can subscribe to my Friday newsletter. It's free, and the comment to subscribe is right beneath this video in that pinned comment. In this newsletter, I share my key lessons learned, takeaways, and any actions that I might be taking in the market as a consequence of what I've learned on the show. Second, when I started a YouTube channel, I never anticipated generating any advertising revenue, but coincidentally, I do now, which is awesome. And so what I've decided to do is donate this to an organization that is very close to my heart called Zero Ceiling. Their mission is to end youth homelessness. The way they do this is by providing young people experiencing homelessness with supportive housing, employment, professional support, life skills, and outdoor adventure. Because often young people in urban centers with no resources will never get the opportunity to experience wild places, nature that can be so transformational, and absolutely was for me. Third, if you prefer to listen to my content, you can now find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search for The Jay Martin Show.